I'll just edit that. I'll just edit that out. Did it yesterday too. It's me. It means it's me.
Oh, is it you?
Yeah. Anyway, yeah.
It's not me, it's
so
you.
you can say happy birthday again, basically.
Happy birthday, Troy.
Oh, thanks. Thank you. Oh, that's good. I've got the chat going on here. People are talking about HG, that they never heard about it and talked about it. That's good. I've got you on for because you're a lady and you're awake and no one else was.
So flattering.
Yeah. But I don't know the ins and outs. I know the hard words and basic stuff, and people are helping me. Kate said a few things just before you got on, and so did Jane. You are known as one of the most caring people. Do you acknowledge that, or is that part of the caring that you don't acknowledge it?
I don't know where I'm known as that, but that's kind. Thank you.
Yeah, exactly. That's part of caring, is not acknowledging it, maybe. But tell us about your life. I want to start with, where do we start? You're very similar to my mum with an early pregnancy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
How old?
I was 18 when I fell pregnant and had my first child at 19, just after I turned 19. Yeah.
Heavy. What was the landscape for you? Unexpected? Expected?
Very unexpected.
Very unexpected.
Awkward chats with the parents, but they were amazing. I actually told Kate and my brother Josh first, and they came and sat in with me with a chat with mum and dad, and then they were asked politely to leave by mum and dad, and oh no, scary. But mum and dad were great. Yeah, so it was a big surprise, and I was not mature. I didn't feel mature enough to be having a baby, that's for sure. But yeah, I did it, and then had two more really close after that, and loved being a mum. Have loved being a mum. It's different. I had my first child at 19. And my last child at 35.
Yeah, that's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah, and the difference, there's a really big difference with the way that people perceive you, I think. I felt like because I had 3 children and then an 11-year gap, and then my husband's vasectomy healed up after 10 years. And then we had two more children. Surprise. And great surprise. But they had 2 more children. But I felt more valid as a parent. Or I felt like people viewed me as a real parent when I was in my 30s than when I was a teen parent, which is sad.
What is
that? But that might have been my own perception.
No. Well, it has to come from somewhere. I don't think people make these things up. Like, it's happened once. If you do think a little bit, like, you know, if you think you're getting teased for wearing something, probably someone has got teased for wearing that. I think the pressure of that. What is the pressure? What is it? Did you think there was more pressure? Do you think there was a weird pressure about being an bit old, or just mainly young? Mainly young.
Oh, mainly young. I think most people that I was always the young mum in any situation where I took my kids, which was the people around me, my family and friends were really supportive. I didn't have any negativity from them. And I think they were really positive and felt like I could do it, didn't have doubts about my parenting. But I felt like people looked at me differently. They made assumptions about me because I was a teenager and a mum. I felt like people made assumptions about who I was, the way I lived. Yeah.
Is there really any difference aside from a few vintage years on your resume? Like, what's nothing more surprising than having your first child and it's your experience. It's all new for you. So you got no real help. Like, people can tell you all these things. Make sure you save nappies by getting these ones, and I don't know what they say, but it's so silly. You're making it up. It's so silly, isn't it? That there is judgment because everyone's different and you can't prepare.
It is silly. It probably was partly my own insecurities as well. And it was a surprise to me that I was pregnant. I wasn't prepared for parenthood, but but loved it. It's been the best thing, and I've felt really comfortable. And I remember when I was pregnant, Dad reminded me that I said to him, "Dad, I don't even like babies. You know, I was never a baby person. Some people are really drawn to little kids. You know, Jane would always be holding a baby, just have a baby on her hip, and little kids just gathered round her, and I just was a little bit disinterested because I was pretty self-absorbed actually when I was 18. I was pretty self-absorbed. And but once I had Emily, my first baby, that was it. I was in love. With babies then, and have been in love with babies ever since. Love it. Motherhood's amazing, and women are incredible. Like just even the birthing process, and then sacrifice. It's a continual sacrifice, motherhood, and it's also I was talking to Nat about this recently and saying it's like a little series of just breaking your heart from the moment they're born, because you've got to let them go, and you know, you see them struggling, or I mean, so much joy. The reason that there are little moments of broken hearts is because the love is so intense and overwhelming. So
when did you find out that you got cancer? Can you remember the day, and what pregnancy was it? Was it in between a pregnancy?
So Bessie, who's my third, she was a baby. She was about 6 months old, and I just found a lump in my neck, and I remember just chatting to Brett and saying, "Oh, that's a bit weird," and I wasn't worried about it, but he said, "Just go to the doctor and check it out." And so I did, and he straight away just said, "Oh, I want to take a biopsy." So I did that, and they said that I had lymphoma, Hodgkins lymphoma, which is the good lymphoma. It's really treatable.
Right.
There's another one called non-Hodgkins, which is much more aggressive, and that I didn't have that one. But the man who took the biopsy, actually, the doctor said, "Oh, are you planning on having more children? Because your treatment might mean that you won't be able to have more children." And he was the surgeon who'd given Brett his vasectomy not long before. So we said, no, unless you did something wrong. And then 10 years later, vasectomy healed. So words to that.
Things you say don't last, doctor. Things you do and say. Right. Is it true only for 10 years, doc?
So Bessie was 8 months old, and it was a bit of a shock. I had symptoms that would just be similar to symptoms that you might have after having children, in that I was just tired and losing weight and things that would happen anyway after having a baby. So
while you had cancer and you didn't know you had it, you were getting these
symptoms?
No,
that's right. It was only from the lump, and my cancer was really was early stages, so it was really, really treatable. The hardest thing for me was Bessie was completely breastfed at that point, and on a Monday night they said to me, "You need to stop feeding your baby by Friday morning, when we have to give you a certain scan where they had to inject me with a radioactive isotope, so I couldn't feed her anymore." And that was really difficult, because she was completely breastfed, and there's a real connection with babies when you're feeding them, breastfeeding them or bottle feeding them. But it was just a connection with me and her, and I found that really overwhelming. So it was the mothering part of it that was hard, not the cancer part necessarily. And then having that meant that I was really well prepared for Bessie's diagnosis 5 years ago of Hodgkins, which is not it's not genetic. There's no genetic link to it, but we both had it. So yeah. And that was harder. Bessie's diagnosis was much harder than my own, for sure. So Bessie was 8 months old when I was diagnosed, and then she got it when she was 19.
Parents say they don't have favourites.
The sun's coming on. I'm going to turn around.
Maybe we don't. Yeah. Is there something that you've got with Bessie because of that journey.
I'm just trying to get out of the sun, Troy. Just a sec.
Oh, is it annoying? Is it annoying you? It's not annoying me. Oh yeah, I get it. That's so bright, isn't it, on your eyeballs? Oh yeah.
Here we go. The sun's coming in off another window. There we go. That's moody. Better, isn't it?
It's moody.
Sorry.
Do you think that? Is there something that you and Bessie went through that your other kids didn't go through that connects you two in a, I guess, deeper, or going through tough things gets you closer. We all know that. That's tough. You haven't. I'm assuming no other kids went through something similar from that point of view.
No, I think it's something that we went through as a family, and that was really just looking back on it. Most of the lead up to her treatment, her diagnosis and her treatment was a few years. She was sick for a few years. So the looking after of her, and then finding different specialists to listen, because some people just wrote off her cancer as acne or eczema, because she had severe itching of her skin. And so it took a number of years. Some health specialists were fantastic and some were a bit dismissive. And as a parent, as a mother, the mother bear can come out if you are not being listened to. If you're protecting your child, you watch out. And I think sometimes as women, we have to do that. We have to keep fighting for to be heard. And maybe that's the case with men as well. I don't know. But I think definitely as women, we have to keep fighting to be heard sometimes. And so by the time she was diagnosed, she'd been sick for a few years, and then going through the process of then preparing her for treatment, because as a female, she needed to be, she won't mind me saying this, I don't think, but she had to have eggs harvested because her treatment was really aggressive.
Right.
So there's a chance that her fertility could be affected. So that was a really difficult process for me and for her. But by that stage, she doesn't remember a lot of it because she was so sick. Her body had started to just keep her alive. So she doesn't have a lot of memory. Someone explained to us that her body was stopping doing things, like she'd stopped growing a bit and she'd stopped speaking a lot as well. She's a talker. And we didn't realise till after she finished her treatment and she started to get better how much more she was talking again. We hadn't realised that she'd stopped talking a lot because her body was just preserving her energy to keep her alive, really.
Right.
But with her eggs being harvested, that was such a huge process, and it gave me a little bit of an insight into women who are going through fertility treatment and IVF. It was brutal, people were beautiful. The people who were doing it were amazing, beautiful, supportive, lovely, but it's a really hard process. I mean, I was having to inject Bessie with hormones and things, and anyway, she had to sign some things and make decisions about what to do with her eggs, which are still in Melbourne somewhere. What to do with those if she died. So she had to make choices about, would she donate them to her sisters? Does she want to get rid of them? Would she want to donate them? And that was really difficult as a mum and for her, because we were facing the reality of the possibility of a life without Bessie there. So we were having to make decisions about what if Bessie dies, and that was really difficult. So that's very bonding, for a mum. And I know they're eggs, but in my mind I'm thinking we're chatting about her potential children, and the possibility that she won't be here to look after them. Or, I mean, they wouldn't be there. Eggs don't just turn into children, but you know what I mean. Yeah. I know how it works. I have 5 children.
For the kids listeners out there. No. Did you have, is that the first time death was really a chat was it with your story? Was it a chat about that too? Or were you quite...
Not for me. With me,
safe?
It wasn't. I had 3 babies that I was looking after when I was unwell, and it just didn't ever enter my mind that I was that sick. And even since, I don't think I was that sick. You know, it was treatable. It was scary. The word cancer is scary.
Yeah.
But it didn't ever enter my mind, and I didn't have that fear. But with Bessie, it wasn't even necessarily a fear, but it was a grief that, there was a sadness to it. Because she, you know, we had to take her to have chemo, and it was so aggressive, and we couldn't have people in the house in case she caught anything. And she just was so sick. She was purple, she was swollen, she didn't look like herself. Chemo can be really awful. And there were many days where I had to force her to go. She just said, I can't do it anymore. So we had to force her to go. And there was a couple of times that we took her in the morning, and the nurses, you know, or the doctors would say to me, oh, you should have brought her into hospital last night. She was really sick. She was really, really sick. So we were facing, to have to go through the process of thinking she might not survive, and that was really awful. And I think it didn't really hit too much a couple of years ago, probably 2 years ago in 2019 for me as a mum. And it's not all about me, but I think it's important that we talk about carers as well. So I think that I went through then a period 2 years ago of real grief, even though Bessie is okay now. She's still got some after effects from the chemo, but she's okay. But I think it kind of hit me, and that was 3 years later that it hit me, and I just was crying all the time, not with people seeing privately, but just couldn't stop crying. I became really anxious.
Emotional dump, you had to be not that. I mean, you're an emotional person. You're on the record of saying that. Was there moments there that you just couldn't be yourself in that area, and you have to be strong for Bessie? And or is it important to be live and just be real with Bessie and cry with her, or?
Yeah, I think that as a family, like I was saying, we went through it as a family, and May and Levi were really, really little. And I was homeschooling them, which was such a blessing that we'd already decided to do that, because they were at home experiencing it all as well in a really positive way. And we made up a bed in the lounge room for Bessie to be there, so that she could just still be part of everything that was going on. A lot of the time she chose not to because noise affected her, but I think that we were real with Bessie, but I don't think the grief hit me in periods like when we were having her eggs harvested, etc. That was really difficult, and so I could cry with her. I think it is important to show your emotion. And I think it was important for Bessie, and she knew that. We joked about it too. Like, I remember after she was very first diagnosed, I said to her, oh, I'm just going to get a coffee from Bean Squeeze. Do you want anything? She said, no, I'm full. That was one of the things. She couldn't eat anything. She said, no, I'm full. And she said, of cancer. So we were constantly like trying to make jokes. Not funny, Bessie. You've just been diagnosed. We've just come from the doctor. Like, not funny. But anyway, it was funny. So we kind of did the highs and lows together. But I think the grief for me came after she was better, after I could relax. And I think that sometimes, God's really gracious in that he gives you what you need at the time. And then it was years later, a couple of years later, that I was able to. I just became really anxious. I couldn't go places. Like, I remember Jane rang me and said, oh, I've got tickets to U2. Come, and we've gone to every U2 concert. And I just said, I can't do it. I couldn't go to Melbourne. I thought my children were going to die. Troy, we went to Vietnam, and it was awful because I thought the whole time I was anxious, thought my children were going to die. So I just went through a real period of anxiety and probably some kind of post-traumatic stress, even though Bessie was fine. And then there's, guilt about, well, she's fine, so why are you being upset? Because there are many other people who aren't. And I felt one of your guests recently was really helpful. I can't remember his name, but he talked about just about that grieving process. He was really open about
Jay
grieving, even though other people might have it worse, you know, and I found that really helpful for me. It kind of validated my feelings. So thank you, whoever that was.
I think it might have been Jay. Is it the opposite?
Might be.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, we can often perspective can sometimes be not helpful. Like you're like, oh well, I'm not so bad because I shouldn't be complaining. Well, you can though. You can. It is important that you don't eliminate it and try and be all rosy on the back of someone else being worse off. It doesn't help.
Yes.
That's too much perspective. It's a wrong. Have we just designed a wrong perspective? Is that what we've just designed right here? There's a wrong perspective. There is an unhealthy good perspective because you can be neglecting yourself.
We need to allow ourselves to feel what we're feeling. And so not to, excuse me, sorry, I'm just teary. I think it's really good to allow ourselves to feel what we're feeling and to acknowledge it and then be in that space so that do what you can do in that space. So I still had to, make meals, cook dinners, get kids to school, do all sorts of things, I was able to do that. Some people can't. I'm sure when they're grieving or when they're feeling like that, you can't do that. And so I think getting support is really helpful. But also being able to say to someone, like when I said to Jane, I'm so sorry, I can't do it. I just can't leave Geelong. I was too panicked. And she just said, I get it. Totally fine. No worries. I get it. And that's really important to have people say, totally fine. I get it. So I think allowing yourself to be in that space and then also stopping sometimes things that you're doing, saying, I can't do everything at the moment, even if it doesn't make sense. I could have said to myself, Bessie's fine. Other people are not fine. Everything's okay. So snap out of it and get on with it. But I think it was more important for me to acknowledge that space that I was in and allow myself time, step back from many things. I stopped doing quite a few things that I was doing and allowed myself to go through that process, I think is really important. I think sometimes women are really stoic and that's great. And I think that I think that's a really amazing quality. And I think too, we need to allow ourselves to just step back for a bit sometimes. Sometimes we're not good at that, I think.
Do you agree that it's not a choice that women are being put in these situations? Or it seems like, not that if you had a choice, would you have this life? It just seems like women are finding themselves on the front line of unexpected situations. However wild they are, they seem to be the person that's on the front line. Time and time and time again. And it is a bit of a, hey, fellas, pick up your game. But at the same time, we don't know where we fit in this world. And I'd like to think we try our best. But what's the balance in a relationship that's required from a woman's perspective? And from your perspective, more importantly, because your life sounds like so many things going on, and you're saying find some time for yourself.
It's hard to do that.
And how can you support? Yeah, where do you get support from?
That's a good question. Brett was great. So Brett is my husband, and Brett was grieving as well. So Brett, at the time when Bessie was sick and the time when I was sick, was more distressed than I was. He found the actual experience more distressing. I mean, he's a paramedic, so he sees the worst of illness and injury, and so his mind can go to worst possible scenario. And because he's seen it, he can see it happen. He, picks up patients to take them into hospital after having chemo. So he can see all of that. So at the time, probably I was able to take on the roles of looking after Bessie more than Brett in practical ways. But then Brett was able to take over things then when I needed that to happen, when I needed to step back a bit. And so just even, I think for men just to listen to women, and for women to listen to men, it's two-way. I think for us to listen to each other and allow the other person to be in the space that they're in, but also then encouraging and saying, because we can fall into a trap of sitting in that space for a long time of grief. And you have to get on with life at some point. And I'm saying that as someone who hasn't suffered from deep depression, and so I understand that that's a different thing, and there are different ways of dealing with that, I think. But yeah, I think it's good to give someone a nudge as well and say, what are you able to do at the moment, and how can I support you in that? Or I notice you haven't been catching up with your friends very often. Would you like me to watch the kids while you go and do something? Or even ringing a friend and saying, hey, Alex is probably having a bit of a hard time. Maybe give her a call or send her a text or something like that. Yeah, I just think being gentle, maybe. Being gentle and...
4 daughters, all very unique and different. You're still mothering to this day, and especially when they're living in your house. How's it been mothering, and are you continually learning about mothering? Is it just some things just continue to surprise you, or what was the differences? 4 very different women. How was mothering? I guess a very macro perspective, but
yeah, I think that every child is so unique, and so my relationship with all of them is unique. I have different things that I connect with them all on differently, and then having a boy as well is just a whole other thing. I think that to celebrate their uniqueness is amazing, and I always think with parenting, there's a kind of a standard that you want your kids to get to as far as their character goes and as far as their who they are, but to get them to that standard is, and I'm not saying that as a standard as a ticker box, you get an A in life. I mean, just, there are certain things we need to ways we need to behave as adults, or certain ways we need to know how to love other people, not be, to be selfless, to be caring. But how to get them to that standard is different for every child, because they're all so different and unique and beautiful. And I think to celebrate their uniqueness is so important. And to let them be part of the family, sharing their gifts and things is so important. And May, actually, who's my 13-year-old, just recently put up on everybody's bedroom door, she put up our names and said, right, you've got 2 weeks, you have to write down something positive about the other person. So we all had to write little notes about what's positive about each person in the house. I think that's so great as parents, as mums, as dads, as aunties, as uncles, as we can celebrate each child's uniqueness, because they've been created like that. Nurture their uniqueness, because they've been created to serve, in the community and in families and in life with their uniqueness. And men are amazing. Like I think men are great. But women are great too. Women have so much to offer. And in my experience, I haven't had the experience of not being able to be myself as a woman. I haven't ever had that experience, but I know, although as I'm getting older, I think, there are things that have been said that I think, you wouldn't say that these days. Not by people in my family, but in society. I'm getting off track, Joy. I'm just...
Don't get distracted by my eyes, Dan. I'm reading questions and comments and things going crazy. I actually am reading I'm not reading my birthday messages. I'm joking.
You are so reading your birthday messages.
Thanks. I'm just replying. Hang on. Keep going. I'm just replying. I'm not. So I've got questions. But one of them you just kind of answered. Someone asked how do you raise a strong young woman? I think you hit the nail on the head there with something, a good reminder that it's not it's complex, but that's how you answer complexity. You listen to the uniqueness and celebrate their complexities and their uniqueness. It's brilliant. Have you had any good female role models in your life?
so many good female role models. I think my mum, first of all, is an amazing role model. So she just, we've had since we were young, like babies, just had open door policy in our house. And so we've had people come in and out of our house, so that we've learnt how to care about other people, and just not to be really insulated in who we know. So we've been friends with and had part of our family dinners and part of our lives people from everywhere, from so unique, from the drunk homeless man on the front lawn to the rich lady from church, and I think that's important, that we have a huge variety of people in our lives. It makes us more interesting for a start, but it also teaches us about people and who people are and their uniqueness, and about how to love other people where they're at, I think is really important. But so mum's been a great role model, really self-sacrificial, and I think that that's something that women do really well, and I think that's a good thing, as long as you're not burning out. But I've got Jane's mum, Karen, is amazing. Matt Barclay's mum, who still, I'm great friends with these beautiful older women. And I think that older women teaching younger women, and teaching by allowing them to be in your home, living life with people, just living life together is so important, because I can just watch, if you're just living in the same space as someone, so being welcomed as a teenager, a pregnant teenager even. Karen, when I told Karen I was pregnant for the first time, she said, "Oh, you're a duffer." I love that response.
That's so supportive still.
I do, so supportive.
You're probably so scared, going, this is the worst. White people are going to scold me. I know they're not going to scold fully, but what is it going to be like? You're a duffer.
That was it. You're a duffer. You're a duffer.
Same as tripping over your shoelace.
But I think that living life together is really important, because you can't always plan for teaching, and you can't always plan for learning. I think when you're living life together, you're experiencing how someone else connects with the world and connects with other people, and I think that's really important. So older women and younger women together is fantastic, and I mean, now even my children are my role models as well. My adult children, even my 13-year-old daughter, they're amazing. I just think I want to grow up to be like you.
They are. That's so
that's
good.
a tick for me, isn't it, for parenting? Well done.
I definitely think so. I think if I'm sure parents do admire their kids, hopefully, as they grow older. But you've got lovely children, and I mean the whole McEwen clan. You talk about your mum there, and thankfully I know her well too. It's lovely to see that tree, that sprinkle of her. And being around her and having that door open. I mean, you lived with her, but that door open, I can attest to that. It's been the ultimate teaching grounds. When you didn't know it. You were just hanging out, having a little apple cinnamon tea on the stool, with
the choc chip biscuit jar.
And just everything's on, and there's you can't have that. It's just on, and just go over there, sit there, and Nat will finish that soon. Just chill out. Of course, you can go play the basketball by yourself. Don't just come here. I'm going to the shops. Are you okay? It's the best, and you don't know it, but I'm definitely taking that for the door open tool. Have the door open more often, and we don't. We get a little bit. They're too different. That's probably the problem. You don't know them. You haven't sat down for dinner with them.
Yeah. And don't be concerned. Women are really concerned about what their houses look like.
Oh.
And I am, but don't worry about it, because someone wants to walk into your house with the washing all over the floor, because it makes them feel better, because their washing's all over the floor as well, And some, so you'd be tired, and but I think observing other women as well, just learning from women is incredible. And watching other women, I learn from, my sister is an amazing mum, and her open door policy is like crazy, so self-sacrificial.
Yeah.
She's amazing. Jane's amazing. You know, I got heaps of amazing people, but I think too, reading books. You know, I'm a Christian, so reading about women in the Bible is amazing. Like just reading about Deborah, the judge of Israel.
I just read about Deborah too. It's crazy. She's
amazing.
Crazy. People don't think there's leaders in the Bible, women leaders, and like, oh, you're a bit matriarchal or patriarchal. Sorry, and it's like, hang on, there is leaders. Read Judges. There's big leaders. Deb. Deb.
And Deborah was saying, hey, where are the men? Step up, men.
Yeah.
You know? And God's saying, yeah, Deborah, you say that. You tell them, just step up.
I know, it's so good. Alex, do you want to talk till 9 o'clock or do I have to get Daz on?
I'm so sorry. What's the time?
It's 8:35. I've got to go.
Oh, Daz. Sorry.
No.
It's a takeover, Daz. It's a takeover.
I was going to give you the option, even though I do know you would be sacrificial. Go, no, get Daz on. But I could talk to you for yonkies.
People are on for Daz, not for me.
No, they're not. They're here for you.
They are.
The comments are going bonkers. I'm going to read some of them now just to make you feel even more awkward. No, early on there were some emotional levels that you hit and people really resonated with that. Alex, sending you so much love and warmth. You're an incredible person, more incredible mum. Incredible to able to run a house every day with 6 different people, needing you in different ways. My mum said, I get it when, I don't know what that was to, something to when you said, I get it. I love
your mum. She's great.
She is. Alex, you're such a beautiful soul. Fizz says something really interesting. He always says something kind of, something to think about, prodding. Women carry way too much to ensure everyone else is okay. Never good at putting their wants and needs first. So many times I discuss with my female patients that by looking after themselves first with their injury, they'll be a better mum for their kids.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Thanks, Alex and Troy. I'm not going to read all of them. We'll be here, and Daz is getting angry. No, he's not. He's not. Such nice. I don't know who's nicer out of you two. You're both at the highest levels. Alex, thank you for jumping on. It's often the surprise moments, isn't it, that are the most beautiful.
It is. And it's your birthday.
I know.
I was the birthday guest.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I know.
Winner there.
All right.
Hey, and Fizz.
Yeah.
Fizz, Levi's neck, so free. Levi had a little treatment from Fizz.
Oh, did you go in?
And his neck's really free, but he's going in next week as well. Yeah.
Oh, that's brilliant. Alex, thanks heaps for coming on today. I appreciate it.
Pleasure.
Stick around.
Thanks for asking.
No worries. See ya.
Bye.